Hello, my name is Debbie. I'm Owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 65. Today is Friday, February 2nd, 2024. Happy Groundhog's Day if anyone here observes that. So this is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching, and life thrown in. This is what I'm going to call a double celebration video because it is both my 3-year anniversary on Flosstube. I did my first video at the very end of January in 2021, as well as I have crossed that milestone for 1,000 subscribers. It's been wonderful sharing my cross-stitch journey with each of you, whether you are my first subscriber or my 1,000th subscriber. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And I want to give a special thanks to Beth, the Steadfast Stitcher, a fellow Flosstuber. She also has a Facebook group, Crafts and Books, and she periodically will host Zoom calls for stitchers. And so we both were participating in one. She happened to look up my Flosstube and saw that I was two subscribers short of 1,000. So she encouraged people who hadn't subscribed to me to do it. And so they did. So big thank you to Beth who pushed me over that threshold. You know, that's just a number. I don't monetize my channel, but it is a nice number to get to. And it's just amazing that there are so many people out there who share this passion for this craft with me. And I really appreciate taking the time to watch and really appreciate you commenting on my videos and all of that. It's just been a real pleasure. And so with that, I want to do a couple of giveaways to thank all of you and to help share our love of cross stitch. So the first thing that I want to give away, which I've now managed to bury under a pile, I'm going to pull back up. The first thing is a chart. So it's a chart that comes with the floss. I believe that these are MPI silks. This big thing here is just a really large floss card. So this is, what's it called? I Give You My Hand by Kathy Barrick. I received this when I attended a retreat in Quilter Station in 2022, I believe. And it's really lovely because this is the same pattern, but she had it stitched two different ways, one on the dark fabric and one on the light fabric. And I just love to look at the contrast of that. However, I don't think this is anything I'm going to stitch in the near future. And so I'd rather get it into the hands of a stitcher who will probably get to it before I ever will. So if you are interested in winning this, please use the word hand, HAND. Standard rules apply. Please be 18 or older so I can legally get your mailing address. If I will mail this anywhere in the world that the U.S. Postal System will mail. Please don't use the words prize, giveaway, things like that. In your comment, I will have to delete it. Just if you want to get this, use the word hand. And if for some reason this is lost, I will not provide compensation, cash compensation for the pattern itself. It is what I have, and so it's what I'm doing. I'm not selling it or anything like that. So this is the first prize. The second one is I don't have anything to show. It is I want to give a PDF away. So from one of these two companies, and that is a PDF either from Heaven and Earth Designs or Pain Free Crafts. So if you are interested in winning one of those, first of all, I think you need to develop a wish list on those, and it's your choice which company. I think that's the easiest way for me to gift it is if you have a wish list, I can pick something off that list and ask the companies to send it to you. I would also ask that you pick a chart. I don't care if it's, a mini, a full cover, a supersized max color, full coverage, whatever. There are a few patterns on each of those websites which are outrageously expensive. I remember last year there was one that was like £1,000 on the Pain Free Crafts. I'm not going to pay £1,000 for a chart. Just telling you that right now. I never knew if that was an error or it was meant to discourage you from buying it because it was a stitch along. Really cute chart, but as soon as I saw the price tag, I'm like, yeah, she's got so many other great patterns. I'm not going to worry about that one. But anyhow, if you're interested in that, please use the word earth, EARTH. And again, that word is for either, if you are the winner and I select you, I will let you tell me which company you would like a chart from. So good luck to everyone. And again, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. So I also want to give a shout out to a fellow Flosstuber, and that is Susan from Criminally Creative. I will have her Flosstube channel linked in the box below. Susan is someone I met at the Queen City Stitch Retreat in October 23, so a few months ago. She was one of my table mates. She's got so many amazing projects that she, really diverse range of projects that she works on. And she is an attorney. And so the way that she sort of breaks up her videos, rather than sort of, just saying, oh, here are my whips, here are my starts, here are my finishes, she's got clever legal terms that she uses to break it up. She's a lot of fun. And I am participating in a round robin that, while we all agreed to it, she sort of is herding all the cats in the round robin and helping us move forward. So with that, why don't I go ahead and show you what I have been working on for the past 2.5 weeks. So the first one, I just mentioned Susan. The first one, it was a new start. This is Blooming Tiny Town from Heart and Hand. So I think many of you are familiar with this. So we are doing this as a round robin. So basically, the group all had to pick. You just picked whatever tiny town you wanted and stitch. We broke it up. There's 5 of us doing it. Broke it up and just stitched between 30 and 35 stitches across. So I basically will stitch this house. I'd have to sort of count to see exactly that. But the idea is then you mail it to the next person who does, basically it works out to a motif, but whether or not you do people go with this house? Do they go with that house? Sort of just figure it out. And then when it comes back to us in the end, we probably will have a little bit left to do. And we're taking it really slowly. There are, I think we each get it for about 2 months. So this is a really, so it's a very manageable bite-sized pattern to send it around that way. It does, I don't want to show it, but it does have, you see those there? A few buttons that go with it. And so I'm just keeping those, and I'll put them on at the end, regardless of who gets it when. So here's where I am now. So you can see I have a very, very, very small start. I think this is like 150 stitches or something. So a very small start. I'm doing this on 32 count linen from Picture This Plus, colorway Whimsy. Those of you who've been watching me for a while know that I finished Huckleberry Farm last year. And so that was on a fat half, and the whole thing didn't require a fat half. So this is a piece of the fabric from that. And quite frankly, I've got it all balled up. I'm kind of a paranoid stitcher. I want to make sure I have plenty of fabric. So when I get to the bottom of my part done, I will then clearly have 3 inches and cut it off. This is actually the smallest Q snap I will ever use. This is a 6x6. I think most people probably will use an 8x8 if they use Q snaps. And so I want to make sure that someone can easily get it into their Q snap. I don't want to make it too small for whoever's using it. So this is Blooming Tiny Town. I participated in Whip Warriors, what they called Whip Frenzy. Whip Warriors is a Facebook group. And the idea behind that was to touch as many whips as possible and put in 200 stitches. It was like 5 or 6 days, so it was quite a bit of time. So I was pulling out a whip, but a lot of times I was putting in more than 200 stitches. But I would, 200, you had to put in, I think, between 100 and 200. I was usually going up to the 200. Stopping, taking a photo, posting it. And if I wanted to keep going on that one, I just kept going and just didn't post it. But I got a good variety in there. So I also try, to the extent I have time to do it, to stitch on projects when it's their birthday. So this one had a birthday in January. Don't ask me why I started a Christmas whip in January, but I did. So this is from an issue of The World of Cross Stitching. This is actually, I think the fabric itself is petty point. I am not doing it on a petty point. I am doing it on a 32 count Stitch Me Even Weave in the colorway Cardinal. I have to say I started this last year. I probably started this for Bringo in the Magazine Cross Stitch Monthly, or I can't remember the exact order of those words, Cross Stitch Magazine Monthly. But anyhow, there was probably a box that said start a new magazine piece. I had this one kitted up and ready to go. So I started it and then never picked it up again. But it had its birthday, so I put in a few hundred more stitches. And I just love the way you can see the detail already coming out. So I did a lot of this black down on both sides. Also came up here and did the little top of the lamp. And then a little bit of the dark gray here. Love the way those details are coming out. But this is kind of a fiddly piece. To get that detail, there's a lot of quarter stitches and 3/4 stitches. And so it is a little bit slow going, which is probably why it's not something I reach for. It's not that it's hard, it just takes a little bit more time. And sometimes I just want to get into the flow of stitching and not worry about it so much. Another piece that I picked up. This is a book that came out a few years ago. It's from Doreen Jones. It's called Iznik and Delft Pottery. I lived in Turkey for about 3 years, and I did actually visit Iznik, which is a little village that is known for its pottery. And I did not, you can buy the pottery anywhere in Turkey. It's not, you can get it in the Grand Bazaar or whatever. But this is the piece that I am doing, and this is very reminiscent on a lot of the patterns that you can get on the ceramics, the pottery, on the vases and stuff especially. And I was actually looking around my house because I have plenty of Iznik pottery. Somehow I don't have anything with this pattern, which is maybe why this is the one that I was drawn to stitch. Not very far in this. This pattern only has about 10, 12 colors. I haven't really bothered to catch, to count them. But just the detail you're even getting in this kind of flower. So I finished this. So this whole little corner motif is done. And then I just started pulling some of the colors. So again, this is one, it's, you don't really need to see my fabric. This is a 32 count even weave called Moon. I got it from Brick City Cross Stitch, and they do cut your fabric to size, but one of the things that you lose in that is you often don't know who the actual fabric dyer is. But I love this color. I think it's amazing. But anyhow, again, because there is a lot of confetti to get that shading and all of that, it's, you do these green straight lines. That's really easy because it will go all the way down my fabric. That's not hard, but getting in there and doing it, lots of color changes. And so it's a little bit slow going, but I love the colors in this. And when I do pull it out, I do enjoy working on it. So that is what I just call Iznik. It's actually like motifs 34 and 35 in the book, but I call it Iznik. Another one that I pulled out. This is a full coverage from Artisy, White Owl, artwork by Kayomi Hirai. And again, this only got about 200 stitches. So here's the whole thing back, and that is edge to edge. That's as wide as it is. And literally all I did was just put in some of this gray on the wing. That is all I did. This one, I love the way it looks. This is a ton of, I can't remember if it's like either 939 or one of the 820 range. It just gets tiring after a while. It's a lot of dark color. And I don't have, again, it gets boring. I don't even mind chunk stitching, but doing a lot of navy blue. And I know, there are people who will do 10,000 stitches of black, and they're totally happy with it. And there are times to do it, but this tends not to be one that I want to called to me as much. I probably, once I get more into the owl and sort of get that part done, I will be wanting to work on it a lot more. Unlike this bird, which I absolutely love. So this is the Bald Eagle by Cottage Garden Samplings. This is part of Year in the Woods. I'm sure many of you are familiar with charts from this series. And I pulled this one out. And again, it didn't give as much love as I wanted to because it was part of the Whip Frenzy. But here is where I am. So basically, I filled in all of this sort of lighter brown on the wing. And then started to do some of the black lines going down. Maybe I put in a little bit of black up there too. So he is looking fine. I really, really enjoy working on this. This is a 32 count even weave from, I believe, Color and Cotton. I could be wrong. Let me see if I can find the label really quickly, if it's going to pop up for me. And of course it's not. It's either Color and Cotton or Bestitch Me, and the color is Cypress. So I'll hold it up again. Don't ask me why I have a cat needle minder on there. It was the one that was closest when I was working on it. So there we go. But these are just so much fun to work on. I have started the fox as well, but I haven't gotten very far in that one. The next one that I am working on, you do not need to see my post-it note. Next one I'm working on, this is Swan Lake from Owl Force Embroidery. I did get this as a kit, and I am working with a group of Stitcher friends, and we each picked our own pattern. That it could be a new one, but it could also be one that you already started. break it up, whatever you have left to do, into 12 parts and do a part every month. It is not unique to this group. I see lots of people doing that. And I think it's a wonderful way to tackle a project that seems really daunting at first, but then when you sort of say, okay, I'm going to break it up into these parts and then just do it that way. That's how I managed to finish Huckleberry Farm last year. And I absolutely love this one. This is a kit fabric. It's 32 count. It's linen. It's a very uneven linen, which is part of the reason why I think it sat for so long, because I prefer something where I can more consistently see where everything is going. It's not so bad now that I'm using a magnifier, but here's where I am. And basically for the month of January, so I had like 2 of these dancers almost done and like a little bit of this green here. So I finished these dancers and all the flowers here. There's a teeny bit more green that I know I need to put in there, but it was at the very edge of my Q-snap, and I'll pick it up when I do the flower over here. Obviously finished this flower and did this flower as well. Because as a kit, I am using the Owl Forest overdyed flosses, and they are so lovely to stitch with. I am a little bit nervous about, for some reason, not having enough, even though I'm not wasteful with my floss, and I haven't had to pick out a lot and lose a lot with frogging and stuff. But I just feel like there might not be enough, and getting Owl Forest embroidery floss right now is very expensive, and so I don't want to pay $15 shipping for 1 skein of floss if I run out. So I'm going to basically, with this pattern, I think, sort of jump around and do some of the key elements. Like I will come up probably next and do I think actually with this is a really horrible printout, but I will do the palace up here next. And there is actually a moon and a lot of decoration here. But because I want to make sure that these colors, I have enough, because this is such a central motif in that. And then probably like move over to do these 2 dancers to make sure I have enough of those colors. If I end up with something funky in the flowers where I end up having to find a DMC equivalent, it's not going to be a big a deal. And the same with all of this white for the swans. There's very little variegation, so I'm sure I can find a DMC match if I, for some reason, run out of those colors. So a little bit nervous about that, but loving that piece and really glad I have a chance to come back and work on that every month and hopefully bring it to a conclusion. I thought it's not that big of a piece, and I started it in December 2020. Next piece I have is Autumn and Stars Hollow. I am going to be doing all of the Black Needle Society Stars Hollow pieces, but I am still stuck in Autumn, which was the first one that came out and the last part of this series. So you can see on the back, we have all 4 there. The last part of the series, we're supposed to get the box, I think, this month. So yeah, I'm not going to get it done in time, but whatever. So here's where I am now. So I only showed this in my last video, and what I worked on this time was basically put a lot of yellow into that mug. I needed a piece that had red and yellow, although you could choose to stitch whatever you wanted. So I chose to put in quite a few yellow stitches, and I think that was actually, I didn't need 500, but I think this actually is about 500 yellow stitches. Maybe it's 400, but still didn't finish off that coffee mug. So we'll continue to work on that next time I pick it up. But you can sort of see I've got 3 of the 4 corners done, so you can see where this square finishes off. Next piece is one I have not shown in a long time, and it's a piece I love. This is what happens when you have a lot of projects, unfortunately. Some of them don't get the love and attention they deserve. But this one is Stars Bright by Lindy Stitches. I think many of you are familiar with this one. And it says, "We will be together and have our books, and at night be warm in our bed together with the windows open and the stars bright." And this is, again, part of Whip Frenzy, so it really didn't get that much in it. But that's where I am. And basically what I did was I know I put in the white, 3 more outlines of the white of the granny squares. I think this might be the edge. So this might be the corner one. And then I started filling in whatever color here, and that color happened to be over here. So I filled that in as well. So that is where I am with Stars Bright. Next one, I'm glad I finally am getting a lot more progress on this one. This is the Jane Eyre Sal from Stitching Book Club / Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts. So this was a sal that completed like not quite a year ago. And we did get the whole pattern ahead of time, and then we just did it in, but it was like every week you stitch something, and I had a dream that I was going to keep up, and I never did. But this is a 32 count linen from Fortnite Fabrics. I don't have the actual name right in front of me, but here's where I am now. So I finished the word Air, so her last name, and did a little bit of this color around for the border. So really enjoying working on this one. It's not a huge, I mean, I am doing, there was a small version, a large version. I am doing the larger version, but it's not huge. It fits on that whole piece of fabric there. So it's not too huge. Next one, this is Brownfish Owl from another piece by Kathy Barrick. And I am making modifications to do this as a memorial to my grandmother. So I will show you where it is. And this is a 32 count 32 count Bestitch Me colorway scroll. And here is where I am. So the years that are in there, that is my grandmother's, the year that she was born, the year that she died. That was already in there. I finished this, I had like this band about halfway done. So I finished all the way across and then brought it a little bit down and then started to work on the head of the owl. I did shrink this roll, this row a little bit down so that it's about the same height as this, because originally it says stitched by my hand and then has a name, and all of that is fake. This is not a reproduction sampler. She just made up a date and put a name in there. I mean, maybe it's one of her ancestors, but it's not a reproduction sampler. Please hold. I've got a cat out there meowing. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I am at home alone, and it is a gorgeous day here, and I had a cat out on the screen porch, but she heard a truck come by and she got scared and she had to come right in. So anyhow, I am stitching this piece with Beth, the Steadfast Stitcher. We both did this as a stitch along / start along. We both started it. I started mine on New Year's Eve 2022, and she started hers on New Year's Day 2023. So I am going to write my grandmother's name in this row, and I've got it all charted and everything. But when I picked it up this time, it was very easy to do all of that row and stuff. And even though this was not, you had to be careful counting. It wasn't hard counting, and I just didn't want to have to take the time to figure out exactly how I was going to place my grandmother's name in here to make sure that it fit. I mean, there may be a fish or two that I have to stick in there, and I've got all that figured out. I just didn't feel like when I got to that point that I wanted to take the time to do that when I was working on this yesterday, but I was glad to get really good progress on that. Next piece is my very largest piece. This is Heaven Earth Designs, charted by Heaven Earth Design, artwork by Amy Stewart. This is the Grand Library, supersized max color. It is by far my largest piece. I think it's about 715,000 stitches, and it is, which is about 300,000 or 400,000 more than my next largest piece. So I didn't get a huge amount done, and this is what I call like a piece that literally I have to enjoy stitching on it, because it will not be finished in my lifetime. I'm not focused enough to work on it. But basically, this is an open book. There are a bunch of ninja stitches in here, so I finished off doing that. I have a little bit. There might even be one more stitch in there. I have to look at it a little bit more carefully. I think there was a stitch in there that I think I had marked it off as stitched like a few stitching sessions ago, and then I hadn't stitched it, so I didn't have that color out, so I need to come back and do that. And then this is, so I will pick that one up and then start working my way across here on the other side of the book. And this is basically the top of, this is the bottom shelf. I did start in the bottom left-hand corner, and this is basically the top of that bottom shelf. So colors I basically picked and started coming over here. And I'm really loving the way this is starting to look coming in. This is a brick wall at nighttime, so the detail that comes through is really fascinating. really loving the way this one is coming out. It's just very slow going because it is so big. I am hoping to get a lot of progress on this month. I both in Full Coverage Fanatics, I think it's work on, they have an event every month that they change the topic. It's a 1-week event, and find something in the theme. So I think the theme this month is for a week, work on your largest whip. And then also for another challenge group, it's put 2,000 stitches into your longest whip. And so I do want to get, again, I don't think I'm ever going to finish this one, but I do enjoy stitching on it and do want to get some progress so I can at least see something that starts to come through. It was so exciting when I saw these are paintings, because this is a thief, and because he's got a painting under his arm as well. And it was so exciting when I got the last few stitches in and finally figured out what those things were. So it is lovely watching this come to life. It just takes a long time. Next piece is one that everyone seems to love, and this is Artisy. This is Old World Map, the large version. And, oops, things are flying. Here is where I am now. So I think last time I had showed you I put a lot in here. I finished putting some white down here because I was working on a challenge to get 1,000 white stitches, which I did. And then I really started working in here. I had a lot of stitches that I hadn't done in there and really wanted to get them in. So sort of the colors in here, and they naturally, just because this is obviously different colors, it filled in, so they were sort of a natural line. I'm going to say, like, this is basically foliage here, so it doesn't even, like, even though I'm getting it filled in, it doesn't look like that much. When you look at the picture overall, it will be fine, but I have to say right now, even though I've filled most of it in, it doesn't look like much. But it will, I think overall when it's done, it will make part of the overall scene here. So this is my oldest project. I started this on Christmas Day, Christmas Day, 2019, and it is my oldest project. It is when I went from being a monogamous stitcher. That fall is when I switched over. All my other projects, though, were small ones, and those have been completed. So this one is like 21% done, so I'm really far away from having it done. But it's on 18 count. It's not excessive. So when I do work on it, it does move pretty quickly. So that is Old World Map by Artisy. So excuse me while I pick up a fell. Okay, so this is Tintern Abbey, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Samuel Coleman. This is part of the 2024 Stitch Along by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm sure you've heard a lot about this one. There are 10 charts. They were all adapted from other charts that she has, and they're all between like 58 and 61,000 stitches. The idea, and they're released in 4 parts. So if you finish 4 full pages, so not those little pages on the side, those don't count, but if you complete 4 full pages by the end of the year, you pay $10 to join, and then you get all 10, like the other 9 charts for free if you complete 4 pages. And if you complete the whole thing by the end of the year, you get all 10 charts plus 2 others from Heaven and Earth Designs. And she has put all PDFs, but she has put no limitations on which charts you pick. I most likely will not get this done. I'm not even trying to, but I will say, it's all browns, which is normally not the most exciting thing to stitch, but I don't know if it was just my frame of mind, but in the evenings, I have 3 projects that I've got sitting by my evening stitching chair. And this is one of them. And this is the one I was gravitating to the most. You don't really need to see that in front of my face. This is the one I was gravitating to the most. And I don't know exactly what it is about it. It's not that it's easier or harder than others. It's certainly not my favorite colors, but I just, maybe because this whole overall scene is peaceful and that's what I needed at that time. Basically you can start to see, so this is unstitched, but this you can start to see, like, this is the sky that's peeking up at the very top. This is the tip of the archway. This is the bottom of the part that we have right now, so it does stop here. And I'm doing this on a 22 count Hardanger, undyed, it's just obvious because it's full coverage. But I really enjoyed working on it. Of the parts we have received, I've done about, I think, 22%. So if I continue to enjoy working on this, I will keep picking it up. But again, my goal is to get the 4 pages done. My goal is not to finish it. So another one of my evening pieces that I work on. This is Simple Pleasures, artwork by Chris Dunn, charted by Pain-Free Crafts. So cute little picture of mice. Also doing this on 22 count. And here is where I am. So basically, I was initially sort of pulling colors in this, straw, hay, roof, whatever. And now you can really see some of that definition. Again, a lot of browns, not my thing most of the time, but this was a nice one to pick up. I did sort of tend to lean more towards the Tintern Abbey, but I already love to see that the detail is coming out in this, and it's looking great. So that is Simple Pleasures. And that is all of the stitching I have to show you. I'm going to go a little bit into plans. So last year, if you recall, I did a round robin with a different group of friends than the one I'm doing my round robin this year. And this year we're doing what we're calling a non-round robin, where basically everyone picks their own pattern starting from the beginning, and someone is spinning a wheel or doing a random number generator. I don't know exactly what she's doing. And if our name comes up, we get to pick a number 1 through 9, and everyone labels their chart, and we do that part. So the person who got called first was number 6. So this is actually 2 patterns. I only pulled up one, so I'll show you the whole thing here. This is Snowy Snuggles Scrapbook, part 1. And so it is a collaboration between the Blue Flower and Lindy Stitches, which are 2 of my favorite designers. So that makes sense. And so it's basically 9 squares. So not the size of Hawk Run Hollow. These are very small, manageable squares. None of them full coverage. So number 6. So that's for me, this little llama. Some people went ahead and last year and did the frame, or everyone chose something different. But you can put in sort of like, because let's say the person here chose 6. Great. What happens if the next person chooses 4? So if you have a framework, then it makes it easier to do. I did not do that. So I will be doing, but it's easy enough for me to do it, the frame. So you can see here, this is the Blue Flower one. Sorry for the glare. And, you can do individual pillows if you don't want to do the whole thing. I am doing the whole thing. And this is a 32 count fabric from Oak Crown Studio. I love this. I'm really starting to like these sort of tealy bluish colors. And this one, it's a Monaco, actually, I shouldn't say. So it's a Monaco, and it's Oak Crown Studios, and it's a one-of-a-kind color. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Oak Crown Studios is, that is run by Amy Fiber Arts. She started a new company in the second half of 2023, Dyeing Fabrics. She's got some fabulous colors. I had a chance when I went to Queen City Stitch Retreat to see the colors, and so I picked this up there. She does an amazing job. So I'm really looking forward to trying her fabrics. Okay. Next part of my plans is, so that is obviously a new start. My next new start that I am doing, Carolyn Zook from C Zook Stitch is doing a stitch along it's December 2023. So this version of this issue of Just Cross Stitch. And here is the piece. It's called The Snuggle Is Real. I think every cat lover in the world just went, oh, when we saw this piece. And so Carolyn decided to organize a stitch along, and I'm just jumping on that bandwagon. And I decided, this is done on a piece of white fabric. I forget who this is, but it's like the dots are already, these are not stitches. This is the way it's on the fabric. I decided to go a different way. I'm actually going to do it on a very dark fabric. So this is from Grace Notes Fabric. It's an 18 count Aida. I don't have my glasses anywhere handy. I don't want to say it's Janie, something like that. Sorry, I can't read the name. Sorry, Corinne. But gorgeous, gorgeous fabric. And so I sort of like the way those light colors. I did try for something lighter, but I was concerned. I think I talked about this in my last video, that some of this stuff like the slipper or the little kitty ears might get a little lost on that. And I didn't want that. I want to see that kitty and all of its cuteness come to life. Okay, so those are my 2 new plan starts, and I am participating in WIPGO this year. I have every single project I work on, I have an index card, I write that, and when I do that, I don't have the stack in front of me, but whenever I complete that, it goes, the card, like not completed, but whenever I stitch on it, it goes to the bottom of the stack. And that's not the order I do it in, but it's just for me to say what projects haven't I stitched on in a long time, and it's a very easy visual. And what I'm doing for WIPGO is when Jessie Marie calls a number, I go through, and so I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but let's say it was 1 and 3, which are not the numbers. But I would say, okay, card number 1 is here. And then I would just keep counting 2, 3 and pull out both of those cards. And the goal on it is if it is something like every project I had that by the end of 2023, I had a goal that I wanted to achieve on it. And they were aspirational goals. So it's already been more than a year, not meant to be completed within a year. And if I have not achieved the goal, it is 1,000 stitches, or if I hit the goal for some reason in that period of time, or if it's something that either I've hit the goal or it's something that was started after 2023 and therefore there is no goal, it's to work on it a day. So one of those projects is Saga from Long Dog Samplers. We all need to slow down when we say that one. And I'm going to say I have not done much on this at all. I should have refolded this. This is stitched on a 20 count 1/1 Grace Knits fabric, and it's, I think, Blueberry Milkshake. So that is all I have done. I picked a palette of 4 colors. This is 3799, so I'm doing sort of all of the arches and stuff in that, and then I'm just doing each of the scenes here in different colors. I'm not trying to do a pop of color or anything like that. That is just well beyond my artistic capabilities. But I don't have the color palette in front of me, but it's sort of a green, purple, and orangish, peachish color. And I will mix those up for each of the windows. So those of you who do, these long dogs are very, very addictive when you get into them. This is by far the largest one. It has over 100,000 stitches. And so they take a while to do. But a lot of fun, this one, and just some really cute scenes in there. So this one needs a day, but if I want to put more in it, there is nothing that stops me from doing more than a day on that. Okay, and then my other WIPGO piece. This is Fabulous Women from Cloud's Factory. Fabulous Women in History, I think, is the actual full name. So I am doing this on a 32, 28, I can't remember, count fabric. Crystal Orchid is the color. So I have not achieved my goal on this. So I need to put a 1,000 stitches. So that is the top row there. So you can sort of see it. This is Women Are the Real Architects of, and I think of, and that S, so Society, and then there, I know this, I think, is Susan B. Anthony and Harriet Tubman are on top. So put 1,000 stitches. All of that is more than 1,000 stitches, but it will bring me very, very close to finishing my goal, which was to finish the top row of characters of women. I would say, but there's a man in there too, because that is Sacagawea up there. And I'm going to say I don't remember the name of the man, and that's okay. So that is where I am on that. This is an opalescent fabric. Took me, it was when I used to be exclusively an Ada stitcher, and when I switched over to trying other things, I think I jumped in a little bit too much. So some of these, like the opalescent fabric, it took me a while to figure it. Opalescent linen, it took me a while to figure out how to stitch on it. But once I did, it goes along much more quickly. And again, I finally got a great magnifier set up. Sorry about that. I'm sure that came up really loudly. That was my ringtone, Game of Thrones. Anyhow, I had a call I had to take. So I'm back. So that is all of my plans. So let me move a little bit into Stitchy Kindness and some purchases. So the first one I want to give away. So I want to give away from Carla at Cobweb Corner. If you're not familiar with Carla, she has a store, Cobweb Corner, obviously. It's a online store that has a lot of great fabric and flosses. Has a lot of great patterns and flosses. She has some fabrics, but that's not really what she's known for. But she does auctions periodically, and I actually purchased something in an auction recently, but that hasn't gotten here yet. But this was a giveaway I won, and so this is what this is called Artemishka cross stitch, and it is Pamper Time. It's a little cutie, getting ready in the sink in the morning, little birdie. I just love the blues and the purples in there. And so thank you, Carla, for that. Other things were purchases that I got. So Garan Stitchery did a pre-order for this, so I went ahead and ordered it. So this is Julia, the Firefly princess from Bella Filipina. So I got this and the bead pack. I didn't bring the bead pack over here, but a lot of beads for this. But absolutely gorgeous pattern. And then I have Lindy Stitches has, I think it's called like Endangered Species Club. So she did a year in 2022. She did the Bird Crush Club, which was a monthly thing. This one is a every other month club, and so this we knew ahead of time what the first one was. So this is the, I don't know if you say it's Amor or Amor leopard, and you can either just get the PDF or you can get what I did, was I actually got the paper pattern, which is a nice paper stock, and then cardstock. And if you do that, then you get the overdye flosses. You don't get the DMCs. So it's two colors, but two skeins of each because you need them for that log that he is on, and for the orangish color in his coat as well. And so I'm going to look forward to stitching these. I don't have a timeline right now on when I'm going to stitch them. They are bigger than the Bird Crush Club, but they're also, that was 12 over the course of a year, and this is 6 over the course of the year. So look forward to that. All right, so that is basically all the stitching I have to show you. So if that is all you're here for, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And again, if you're interested in those giveaways, please use the word hand or earth to enter. And so let me move on to other things. I am going to jump right over to life, no books or TV this time. For those of you who have been watching, watching my videos and have stuck around for the life section, you know that my dad was in the hospital. He was in the hospital for about 2.5 months, and he did pass away. It wasn't, it was maybe a week ago or so I'm still not emotionally in the place where I can really get into a lot of details about it. But it's been a difficult time for a family, especially my mother. They were married for almost 59 years and together for a couple of years before that. So, obviously it's a huge life change for her as well. And so our family is dealing with it. He had a great life. He contributed a lot professionally, as well as to his family. So I'm very grateful for all the time I did have with him. And as a cross stitcher, of course, what we want to do, we always want to honor people and memorialize them in cross stitch, or event or whatever. But it's something that you work on, and it's good to think about someone. Very hard for my father to think about what would be good for him. He was a scientist, basically. He did have his MD, PhD in microbiology, but he, very involved with research and sort of was one of these people who truly believes that if we, study hard enough and work hard enough, there is a way to find a cure for almost everything. He's not like that, we'll find the answer tomorrow or anything like that, but he really believed that, if there's a problem, there is a way to find a solution, and it may take us 200 years to get to that solution, but you got to start somewhere. I think about, it's very hard to find sort of sciencey cross stitch. There are some cutesy ones out there, but I did, he did a lot of work with DNA, viruses, but I just didn't want to do any DNA helix strand or something. When I would go look at doctor stuff, they were like cutesy pictures. Like there's a lovely full coverage on Heaven and Earth Designs of a little kid with a stethoscope on a dog, but like that just doesn't make me think about my father, that image, especially since the kid was a little blonde kid and my dad was not blonde. So like I really couldn't find anything like in the medical field or in the research field that really like in a full coverage that made me think about him. And I spent a lot of time working and like in his hobbies, like he didn't have a huge amount of hobbies. And so he did like the one thing I think about was crosswords, but none of the crosswords I saw, like Erica Michaels had some, Long Dog Samplers has some, but the words in them were not appropriate. Like one of them is Christmas. My dad was Jewish, so like that wasn't going to work. And the other ones, they just weren't things that made me think about my father. And yes, I could have spent a lot of time recharting them, but that just it still wasn't going to really get to what I wanted. So I played around in Etsy. And here's what I ended up with. And it's not my favorite chart, but I think it really says my father. So this is called, it just says, what do we want? Evidence-based science. When do we want it? After peer review. And I'm gonna see if I can find the name. Again, this was an Etsy store. I don't know where they're based. I do know that the spellings are British spellings. Like not obviously none of these words are the same in British and American English. But there's like the word, the color chart is spelled L-O-U-R, but that doesn't mean that. I want to say it's like Stitching Science. That's the name of the company. And one of the reasons why I picked this is my father was a scientist, and obviously, he spent a lot of, researching a lot of time in the lab. And I think one of the things, was that really drove him, especially, I would say drove him crazy anytime, but especially in this current climate, are people who don't have any background in something, who read something once on the internet and thought that made them experts and just weren't right. He was a peer of Anthony Fauci at the NIH and had a lot of respect for the man. And they knew each other personally. And like at the height of pandemic, when every email to Dr. Fauci got an automatic, bounce back, basically like things are very busy right now, he would respond to my father. I mean, that's the kind of relationship they had. He'd like send him a joke or something and he responded. My dad was retired by the time the pandemic hit. But like, that's the kind of relationship. And it drove him crazy. Not because it's not that, there were lots of mistakes made at the beginning of the pandemic and lots of misunderstandings about COVID. But it's one thing when someone who spent their lifetime researching infectious diseases and treating infectious diseases says this is a course of action we need to take, and then they're proven wrong. It's another thing when someone has absolutely no background in something and says, well, I don't care what you say because you're wrong. That drove him absolutely crazy. Because, two scientists can have an intellectual argument about something, but they're making those arguments based on evidence. And a lot of the people who said things that were detrimental, in my opinion, to society and extended the duration of the pandemic because they were not taking very basic precautions, or people who were not scientists. And, I live in Florida. I know who are, I don't know if his title is Secretary of Health. And he lives officially in my town because he is officially a professor at the University of Florida. And let me tell you, he is a doctor, but he is politically driven. I'm just going to say that right there. And the policies in this state have not been for the best of the health. It may be great things for the economy, and that's a separate conversation. And there's validity to that sometimes you have to take risks because of economic reasons. And there's lots of conversation with that, but make that your argument. Don't make it that, take drugs that don't work, drink bleach because that might clean it up. All those arguments. Anyhow, I'm really getting on a soapbox now, but this is really, I can't chart something on I can like the middle part. It's not so exciting for me. But I think this statement here of everything I found sort of makes me think about my father the most, about you want to have a discussion, have a fact-based discussion based on evidence. So Anyhow, that's all I have to say today. So thank you so much if you stuck around and listened to my rant, and my apologies for the phone call going off. I hope that wasn't too loud. And I hope to be back in 2 to 4 weeks. I know I've got some plans. February is a short month. I'm trying to do it twice a month, but February is a short month, and I know I've got some stuff that's making me busy in the middle of the month. So it may be the end of this month. We'll see how it goes. So thank you very much to everyone for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.